Imagine the sea suddenly shadowed by a creature built to remove a whale from the water in a single bite, and then break that whale into pieces. That was Megalodon, a whale-sized shark whose fossil teeth alone tell a story of raw power and sudden violence. Those teeth were thick, triangular blades up to about 7 inches long and serrated like a steak knife, designed to slice through blubber and bone. Picture one tooth the size of your hand. Then imagine a mouth lined with hundreds of them. The scale is the first shock that makes paleontologists sit up and rethink ocean food chains. Megalodon's skeleton rarely survives because sharks have cartilaginous skeletons that fossilize poorly. But where it left proof, it was loud and clear. Teeth wash into sediments across every ocean basin, and massive vertebral centra sometimes preserve growth rings we can count, like tree rings. From those rings and tooth proportions, scientists estimate how fast individuals grew, how long they lived, and roughly how big they could get. These clues anchor every reconstruction: the head breadth, the jaw gape, the mass of muscle required to swing that jaw. In short, the teeth are the bones of the story, and they point to one dominant fact: Megalodon was engineered to take down big-bodied prey. The ocean Megalodon swam in was warmer than today's seas, dotted with whales of all sizes that offered rich, fatty lunches. Fossilized whale bones from the Miocene and Pliocene show bite marks that match Megalodon's teeth exactly. Deep gouges, spaced as their teeth would be, often with crushing fractures nearby. Those marks are not incidental. They appear on ribs, flippers, and spinal elements, indicating attacks that targeted mobility and blood supply rather than the head. This pattern gives us behavior insight. Megalodon may have bitten to disable, then returned to feed, or used crushing bites to kill large targets outright. Those wounded whale skeletons are an eyewitness record when no one was watching. Here's the first twist. Megalodon's bite wasn't just big. It worked differently from the bite you see in most large predators. Rather than a precise shearing nip, its jaws acted like a hydraulic clamp, backed by massive musculature, able to apply crushing force and then pull back to tear a chunk away. Experiments and biomechanical models show a bite that would snap vertebrae and collapse rib cages, and that kind of damage explains why whale fossils are found with massive open fractures. So the teeth tell tooth action, and tooth action tells hunting style. A brutal, close-range crusher that made whale carcasses fall apart at the seams. If you want deeper evidence of behavior, look at the damage pattern on prey, plus the age structure of Megalodon individuals in some fossil deposits. Places with many juvenile teeth suggest nursery grounds in warm, shallow bays where young sharks could grow out of danger while adults hunted offshore. Tooth wear patterns and replacement rates match a lifestyle of constant biting into tough, fatty tissues and bone. And large adults show different wear than juveniles. The adults' teeth were built for punishing hits rather than delicate slashes. Those differences hint at social or ontogenetic roles. Juveniles and adults likely used different habitats and tactics, reducing competition and letting a species this large exploit more food than a single niche would allow. Now the second rehook. How big did Megalodon actually get? And how confident are we in those numbers? Size estimates come from scaling living sharks. We measure tooth height, compare it to great white proportions, and build a model. That method produces an answer that has a range, but a well-supported maximum lands around 15 to 18 meters, or roughly 50 to 60 feet. That's not a fantasy sea monster. It's a biologically plausible apex predator big enough to swallow a small car. Knowing that scale changes everything about its ecology, energy needs, territory size, and even how often it reproduced, because sustaining that mass requires a prodigious supply of large prey. What finally knocked Megalodon from ocean dominance is another major reveal: Fossils show its decline tracks big environmental shifts. As the planet cooled in the late Pliocene, ocean temperatures fell and sea levels shifted, shrinking warm, shallow habitats that may have served as nurseries and reducing the abundance of large baleen whales it favored. At the same time, new, faster, more maneuverable predators emerged and food webs reorganized. Rather than a single smoking gun, the best explanation is a stacking of pressures: habitat loss, prey decline, and increased competition that slowly starved a giant that could not adapt quickly enough to faster, colder seas. Here's the biggest payoff. Megalodon's legacy is still visible in modern oceans. Its tooth design is echoed in the robust teeth of large sharks, and whalebone scars teach us how predators shape prey evolution. When you look at modern apex predators, you see strategies refined in the fossil record: ambush, disabling attacks, and life history shifts that minimize juvenile mortality. Megalodon pushed marine ecosystems toward bigger, faster, and more resilient prey, and those arms races left traces in whale anatomy and behavior that persist today. The story is not just about a lost monster, it's about a deep cascade of ecological change. A myth-busting turn. No credible evidence supports the idea that Megalodon still swims in deep oceans today. The fossil record ends millions of years ago, and we would expect modern encounters, carcasses, and DNA traces if a population of 50-foot sharks persisted. Instead, we find empty ranges and geologically recent absence. That absence teaches a clear lesson. Even the largest predators can vanish if food, habitat, and climate change in ways their life history can't follow. Extinction isn't dramatic in the instant. It's a slow dismantling of the conditions that once made a species possible. The strongest evidence for how Megalodon fit into its world comes from layered deposits where teeth and whale bones accumulate together. In these sites, we can map who was present, which age classes dominated, and how mortality happened seasonally or over years. Teeth of many sizes, alongside mutilated whale skeletons, point to repeated predation events rather than rare scavenging. Those layers become a time-lapse of predator-prey dynamics, and they tell a consistent story. Megalodon was a seasonal, sometimes local specialist on large marine mammals, turning migrations and whale aggregations into hunting opportunities. Another rehook: paleobiology gives us a surprising behavioral possibility that Megalodon, like many large sharks today, likely practiced site fidelity and migration. Growth rings and the distribution of teeth imply that individuals returned to productive feeding grounds and that young sharks used shallow coasts as nurseries. That combination of long-distance adults and protected juvenile habitats would have supported large body size by matching high adult energy demands with safer juvenile growth. But when those nursery coastlines changed with sea level fall, the life history balance that produced giants could not be maintained. As the film closes, think about what Megalodon teaches us about modern conservation. Apex predators shape entire ecosystems, and their loss rewires food webs in lasting ways. The fossil teeth remind us of a charisma-charged past, but the bones and sediments remind us of fragile balances. Megalodon's disappearance was not mythic drama. It was a regrading of oceanic opportunity that favored new designs, not the old monsters. If the past can flip an ocean from giant-dominated to fast-swimming smaller predators, what does that tell us about how human-driven change might rewrite life in our seas? Megalodon left teeth, bite marks, and a chain of ecological consequences. Its story is a concrete lesson in scale, strategy, and vulnerability. Which modern ocean animal do you think most captures Megalodon's role as a shaping force in the sea?